had gang houses and drug houses.
I was on the verge of being homeless.
I had a drug problem.
I was in a coma for 3 weeks because of the brain damage.
Tons of medical bills, right, that I didn't have a way to pay.
Minimum wage and barely getting by.
Our neighbors, our neighborhoods. Since the beginning, we've invested in both. That's why, 30 years later,
Reach made a difference in my life.
Reach drew me in because of sort of this power of this idea, and it was compelling. So it woke up my values, and I think pretty early on I realized it was a great thing to be able to go to a job every day where I could put my values into practice.
A lot of idealists were there at the beginning of Reach, wanted to change the world, but we thought the way to change the world was to improve our neighborhood.
Buckman had, kids dropping out of school. It had high crime rates. It had, absentee landlords. Those things didn't make for a neighborhood where anybody could thrive, where businesses could thrive. Or, it wasn't a good place to raise your family.
The future didn't look bright, and that we needed to take into our own hands how we could work with the public sector, work together to see if there's a way to turn this thing around.
We created a plan with 7 goals and 35 action steps to implement over a 2.5-year period, and it was wildly successful.
And we were trying new things, and because Reach was the first community development corporation in Portland, it was out there. It was pushing the envelope.
I mean, we got so many of the neighbors involved, and we, tackled all the vacant abandoned buildings. We got trees planted, streets paved, a park put in. I mean, it was really pretty phenomenal.
People in these big community meetings sitting on the floors with these giant maps we had, drawing out which houses were the drug problems and which houses had these problems. And that whole planning process was so community driven. It was great.
The president at that time had an awards program. It was called the Volunteer Action Program, and so we submitted the West Clinton Action Plan as a candidate for winning. And we won.
I have to say, watching President Clinton shake hands with Dee Walsh and acknowledging the work that Reach did in the West Clinton Action Plan, which was my neighborhood, which is where I started, was huge.
But throughout the 90s, especially as social service funding was being cut, we noticed that our residents were getting poorer and having more special needs.
Who are we benefiting? Older adults on fixed incomes, families and children, adults that have drug and alcohol challenges, mental illness, veterans returning from a war and struggling to reintegrate. We are serving people in our community. Now, we can let them fall through the cracks, and we can walk by them on the street and say that they have made their own bed, as you will. Or we can say we are all in this together, and that a decent and just and community cares for all.
Reach has made a difference in my life by providing a stable, secure place to live. The average person doesn't have to think about what their body is doing just to walk 1 block. I was at grade school and I was getting ready for physical education in the locker room, and the janitor had just mopped the floor, and I slipped on a water spot, and I was in a coma for 3 weeks because of the brain damage. I'm always going to have difficulty. It's not it's not a disability that's going to improve. As I age, it's going to become more difficult. And so again, having housing is critical. And thank goodness I've never been homeless, but I do work at a homeless shelter. And I think in some sense it'd be unimaginable to have to try to maintain my life day to day if I had no place to live, if my home was the streets. Yes, I've had a disability. I mean, I've had experiences in life that most people don't have to deal with, but my life has been really rich, and I've been blessed in so many ways.
Reach made a difference in my life by giving me a chance to have a safe place. I grew up here, went to grade school, Ockley Green, used to imitate Michael Jackson when Billie Jean first came out, early 2000. I had a drug problem and I became homeless. And that was the beginning of a hellish few years. And so I put my name on the list, and I came up at the Reach. And at first, it was like an all-women's building, and I didn't know what to expect. Once I finally, got in front of the woman that was the manager and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, well, then what day do I come back? And after I fill all the papers out, she handed me my key, right? And I'm right on the first floor, heart's beating all fast, and I open the door. And then I have a really nice-sized room, and there's a bed. And there's a little mini refrigerator, nice little sink in the corner. So little by little, you look around and you got a little, it may not be a beach house or whatever, but it's my own little space of heaven, and it's really awesome. Everybody is entitled to a second chance, and it's hard, especially nowadays. It's hard to get that helping hand, and when with Reach they give you a chance to breathe again.
The community is about people working together to take care of everyone, not just the ones that have, but especially those that don't have.
If you want me to frame it in moral terms, I would say a great and wealthy nation needs to invest in its people, particularly those shut out of the market. If you want to make the case in very pragmatic terms, I would say it'll cost us less today if we make those investments upstream than it will tomorrow if we neglect this problem.
There are many people whose potential hasn't been realized because of circumstances that they can't control. And I firmly believe that if they're given the opportunity by having a way to make their life stable, I think collectively we will be much, much stronger if more people have an opportunity to use their skills to their own and all of our advantage.
These are tough times. We are asked to support lots of good causes, and we often have to ask, the tough question, why this over that? I mean, I get that, but I guess I would say if I had an extra dollar, the reason that I would put it into Reach is because I've seen firsthand the difference they make. And when a mission-driven nonprofit is as successful over a long period of time as Reach, I think they command our support.